Hey guys, welcome to another Captain Cosplay tutorial. Today, we're making Reaper's Mask. So here's the template that I made. There will be a file in the description. Times 1 just means you need one of it. Times 2 means you need to flip it and make a mirror piece. So I laid out all of my pieces onto my foam. This is 5mm craft foam. And I try to keep my pieces as close together as possible to save foam. It does cost money, unfortunately. And then I just go in with my X-Acto knife, cutting out those pieces. All of these pieces are cut out at straight right angles, except for the 3 angled cuts that I will show you here in a second. But the forehead, the main face piece, those are all just straight angles into the foam. So there are 2 pieces with an inward angle on them. That is the both cheekbone pieces and the cheek pieces. The cheekbone, you're going to cut an inward angle on the bottom 2 edges, and this allows it to sit back from the main face piece. To kind of go in towards the face a little bit, and it just raises the cheekbone area, I guess, to make it a little more prominent. And then here is the other inward angle, the cheek. This will be on the inside edge, whichever edge is going to be up against the middle face piece. And then everything else on there is a straight angle. And here's a placing example of the angled edge and the middle piece, so that just moves the cheeks back a little bit. And then the only outward angle is on the bottom edge of the, I guess it's the eyebrow piece, the top part of the eye. And that allows it to come back out from the cheekbone piece that goes in a little bit, so that you have that kind of recessive area, and then it goes back out to give that forehead a little more definition. So once again, here's a placing example. The cheekbone piece, top straight edge, and the outward angle of the eyebrow piece. Once I had everything cut out, I went ahead and shaped everything with my heat gun and a wiffle ball. You can use a knee or an elbow, but the wiffle ball is easier to see on camera. And then I started gluing everything together, first with the forehead, and then starting from the middle, going outwards on the face, 2 middle pieces, then the cheeks, then the cheekbones, and then the eyebrow pieces. After I had all of that glued together, I cut out a piece of foam that was about a 1/4 inch wide, and this went around the top edge of those eyebrow pieces to kind of cause a little ridge between the face and the forehead piece. Then I went ahead and moved on to the nose. I curved that out a bit and softened the edges with my rotary tool. Went ahead and sanded the edges of the rest of the mask while I still had it out. Then I glued it in place. I started with the front top on the nose and the middle eyebrow area on the inside of the mask. And once those had dried off, I went ahead and glued it in there. And then for the middle of the nose, to secure it to the rest of the mask, I flipped the mask over and traced where I needed the glue to be, stuck the glue on there, on the nose and the mask, and then stuck it down. So now the construction of the mask itself is complete, and then from here on out it's just detail work. So the first thing I did, I felt like that seam on the forehead needed to be a little more prominent. I made a first attempt with my razor blade, which didn't work because it wasn't sharp enough. And if my blade had been sharper, I think it would have worked out better. But I decided to try the cutting blade on my rotary tool. This went a lot faster, but the line turned out a little rougher and I couldn't get into those deep corners. So I definitely recommend just getting a new blade or making sure your blade is sharp, because I went ahead and went into those corners with a new blade anyway, and that worked a lot better. Next step is the rivets on the forehead, and I just used medium-sized googly eyes and super glue. There are 3 rivets, one at the top middle where the seam goes to an angle, and then one on either side about halfway up those lines on the side of the forehead. So just put some super glue on the back of a googly eye, and there it is. After that, I sketched out the scratch battle damage on the mask. He's got kind of an X on one part of the forehead and another line, and I just cut 2 inward angles to make kind of a valley, just to make sure the cuts were very prominent. And then he has 2 more down on the bottom of his chin. Those are a little easier because it's just kind of a triangle, a straight open cut. Then after that, I covered all of the seams that I didn't want to be visible with Quick Seal. This is a rubber sealant that I just spread out over the seams with my X-Acto blade, and this helps smooth everything out. I usually use 2 coats over areas I want to cover up, which were the middle of the eyebrows, the forehead ridge, the center seam down the chin, and the 2 cheekbone seams. After the Quick Seal, I went ahead and coated it with white plasti dip. Make sure you use sparing coats, use multiple if you have to. Then afterwards it'll look like that, which is a little too white for me because we want more of an off-white color. So I used some watered down brown paint to cover the whole mask, but this was a bit too watered down and it didn't really hold in there, so after that coat I did another less watery coat that was more paint, and this held a little better after I wiped it off. So if you're doing this too, just go ahead and mess around with it, see what happens. You don't want to go too brown though, because then it looks like he's been playing in the mud or something. After that, I moved on to my silver Rub and Buff. This is the main silver paint that I use a lot, and I started on the cheeks. I got the main surface area first, and then I made sure to get the inside and outside edges, and just getting everything covered. And the nice thing about Rub and Buff is after I have it applied, you can then shine it. You can buff it like an actual metal. That's the name Rub and Buff. So I moved on to the rivets, and then I shined those up as well. Then after that, I moved on to the screen. This is going to go inside the mask so that people can't see your face. So I started with the nose mouth area, and I put my hot glue on the inside of the mask and then placed the screen inside of there. Then I worked on the eyes next. I figured out the shape that I needed, cut it out in a kind of a mirror fashion, and then I started with a line up at the top and then around the underside of the eyes, and I just put the hot glue in there on the mask, and then I push the screen onto it, making sure that the hot glue comes through the screen and gets a really good hold on it. Then to cover up the inside of the cheeks, I used some black craft foam. I did this after the painting so that I didn't have to worry about painting this black, and I used 3mm because it's strong without being blocky and obstructive. I then moved on to the elastic strap. This ended up being, I think, around 12 inches. Originally I cut it like an inch too long, and then I just glue it about an inch inside the edge of the mask with glue on the side that's staying on there, and then I cover the edge with more hot glue just to give it some extra hold. And after that, the mask is done. So here is the finished Reaper mask from Overwatch.
That's going to wrap up the Reaper mask tutorial. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did or found it useful, hit the like button. You might share it if you know someone else who would enjoy this video. And if you want to see future videos like this, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.